Excellent. So today on the Monday Book Club, we're going to be starting Through the Looking Glass. And I think we're ready to go. Yeah, we've got our reading list and we're ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and do some reading and then we will stop and talk about what we've read and perhaps clarify a few things. Here we go. Let me find the right. I said, here we go.
Oh, I never read that thing about the chess game.
Aha. Well, I guess we will have to just do what we can. Shall we just jump right in, or do we want to do the preface to the 1896 edition?
Mm,
Let's do the preface.
yeah.
Okay, preface to the 1896 edition. As the chess problem given on the previous page has puzzled some of our readers, it may be well to explain that it is correctly worked out so far as the moves are concerned. The alternation of red and white is perhaps not so strictly observed as it might be, and the castling of the three queens is merely a way of saying that they entered the palace. But the check of the white king at move 3,
Move
the
6.
capture of the red knight at move 7, and the final checkmate of the red king will be found by anyone who will take the trouble to set the pieces and play the moves as directed to be strictly in accordance with the laws of the game. The words in the poem Jabberwocky have given rise to some differences of opinion as to their pronunciation. So it may be well to give instructions on that point also. Pronounce slithy as if it were the two words sly,
Slithy.
slithy. So I guess it's slithy.
Yeah.
Slide.
Mm,
Okay, and then in the word gyre,
Mhm.
make the G hard in gyre and gimbal and pronounce wrath to rhyme with bath. For this 61,000 fresh electrotypes have been taken, the wood blocks, which never have been used for printing from, as are in good condition as when the first cut in 1871. And the whole book has been set afresh in new type. Okay, well, we're all reading different versions of this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff written here.
there is a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm at the introduction, and the introduction is a poem. Child of the pure unclouded brow and dreaming eyes of wonder, though time be fleet and I and thou are half a life asunder, thy loving smile will certainly hail the love gift of a fairy tale. I have not seen thy sunny face, nor heard thy silver laughter. No thought of me shall find a place in thy young life's hereafter. Even that now thou wilt not fail to listen to my fairy tale. A tale begun in other days when summer suns were glowing, a simple chime that served to time the rhythms of our rowing, whose echo live in memory yet, though envious years would say, forget. Come hearken then, ere voice of dread, with bitter tidings laden, shall summon to the unwelcome bed a melancholy maiden. We are but older children, dear, who fret to find our bedtime near. Okay, somebody else take over, whoever's the next reader.
Des.
Do you have the poem, Des?
Yeah, well, not at the start of the story.
Say that again?
I have to go into about 10 pages to find the Jabberwocky poem, and I can't find any other.
Oh, no, this is with the frost, without the frost.
Okay, yeah, without
don't
the
have
frost, the blinding snow, the winter, the storm wind's moody madness. Within the firelight's ruddy glow, in children's nest of gladness. The magic word shall hold thee fast, thou shalt not heed the raving blast. And through the shadow of a sigh and though the shadow of a sigh may tremble through the story, for happy summer days gone by and vanish summer's glory, it shall not touch with the breath of bale the pleasance of our fairy tale.
There are a few notes here that are interesting.
Okay.
Although the majority of Carol's child friends broke off contact with him, or he with them, after their adolescence, the sad presentment of these lines proved groundless. Among the finest tributes ever paid to Carol are the recollections of him expressed by Alice in her later years. And then also it remarks about the introduction. The three words in quotation marks are the last three words of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. That's of our tale. And it also says Pleasance, the Pleasance of our fairy tale. Pleasance was Alice Little's middle name.
Okay. Very good. All right, now back to Des, I believe. Des, chapter 1, Looking Glass House.
Looking Glass House. One thing was certain, that the white kitten had had nothing to do with it. It was the black kitten's fault entirely. For the white kitten had been having its face washed by the old cat for the last quarter of an hour, and bearing it pretty well, considering. So you see that it couldn't have had any hand in the mischief. The way Dinah washed her children's faces was this. First, she held the poor thing down by its ear with one paw, and then with the other paw, she rubbed its face all over the wrong way, beginning at the nose. And just now, as I said, she was hard at work on the white kitten, which was lying quite still and trying to purr, no doubt feeling that it was all meant for its good. But the black kitten had been finished with earlier in the afternoon, and so while Alice was sitting curled up in a corner of the great armchair, half talking to herself and half asleep, the kitten had been having a grand game of romps with the ball of worsted Alice had been trying to wind up, and had been rolling it up and down till it had all come undone again. And there it was, spread over the hearthrug, all knots and tangles, with the kitten running after its own tail in the middle. Next, please.
Oh, you wicked little things, cried Alice, catching up the kitten and giving it a little kiss to make it understand that it was in disgrace. Really, Dinah ought to have taught you better manners. You ought, Dinah. You know you ought, she added, looking reproachfully at the old cat and speaking in as cross a voice as she could manage. And then she scrambled back into the armchair, taking the kitten and the worsted with her, and began winding up the ball again. But she didn't get on very fast, as she was talking all the time, sometimes to the kitten and sometimes to herself. Kitty sat very demurely on her knee, pretending to watch the progress of the winding, and now and then putting out one paw and gently touching the ball as if it would be glad to help if it might. Do you know what tomorrow is, Kitty? Alice began. You'd have guessed if you'd been up in the window with me. Only Dinah was making you tidy, so you couldn't. I was watching the boys getting in sticks for the bonfire, and it wants plenty of sticks, Kitty. Only it got so cold and it snowed so they had to leave off. Never mind, Kitty, we'll go and see the bonfire tomorrow. Here Alice wound 2 or 3 turns of worsted round the kitten's neck, just to see how it would look. This led to a scramble in which the ball rolled down upon the floor, and yards and yards of it got unwound again. Joan?
Do you know, I was so angry, Kitty, Alice went on as soon as they were comfortably settled again. When I saw all the mischief that you had been doing, I was very nearly opening the window and putting you out into the snow. And you'd have deserved it, you little mischievous darling. What have you got to say for yourself? Now don't interrupt me, she went on, holding up one finger. I'm going to tell you all your faults. Number 1, you squeaked twice while Dinah was washing your face this morning. Now you can't deny it. Kitty, I heard you. What's that you say? Pretending that the kitten was speaking. Her paw went into your eye? Well, that's your fault for keeping your eyes open. If you'd shut them up tight, it wouldn't have happened. Now don't make any more excuses, but listen. Number 2, you pulled Snowdrop away by the tail just as I had put down the saucer of milk before her. What? You were thirsty, were you? How do you know she wasn't thirsty too? Now for number 3. You unwound every bit of the worsted while I wasn't looking. Tom? Said.
No,
No.
Katrina. Yeah.
Okay. That's 3 faults, Kitty, and you've not been punished for any of them yet. You know I'm saving up all your punishments for Wednesday week. Suppose they had saved up all my punishments, she went on, talking more to herself than the kitten. What would they do at the end of a year? I should be sent to prison, I suppose, when the day came. Or let me see, suppose each punishment was to be going without a dinner. Then when the miserable day came, I should have to go without 50 dinners at once. Well, I shouldn't mind that much. I'd far rather go without them than eat them. Do you hear the snow against the window panes, Kitty? How nice and soft it sounds, just as if someone was kissing the window all over outside. I wonder if the snow loves the trees and fields that it kisses them so gently. And then it covers them up snug, with a white quilt, and perhaps it says, "Go to sleep, darlings, till the summer comes again." And when they wake up in the summer, Kitty, they dress themselves all in green and dance about whenever the wind blows. Oh, it's very pretty, cried Alice, dropping the ball of worsted to clap her hands. And I do wish it was true. I'm sure the woods look sleepy in the autumn when the leaves are getting brown. Kitty, can you play chess? Now don't smile, my dear. I'm just asking it seriously, because when we were playing just now, you watched as if you understood it. And when I said check, you purred. Well, it was a nice check, Kitty, and really I might have won if it hadn't been for that nasty knight that came wiggling down among my pieces. Kitty, dear, let's pretend. And here I wish I could tell you half the things that Alice used to say, beginning with her favorite phrase, let's pretend. Duncan.
She'd had quite a long argument with her sister only the day before, all because Alice had begun with, "Let's pretend we're kings and queens." And her sister, who liked being very exact, had argued that they couldn't because there were only 2 of them. And Alice had been reduced at last to say, "Well, you can be one of them then, and I'll be all the rest." And once she had really frightened her old nurse by shouting suddenly in her ear, "Nurse, let's pretend that I'm a hungry hyena and you're a bone." But this has taken us away from Alice's speech to the kitten. "Let's pretend that you're the Red Queen, Kitty. Do you know, I think if you sat up and folded your arms, you'd look exactly like her. Now do try, there's a dear." and Alice got the Red Queen off the table and set it up before the kitten as a model for it to imitate. However, the thing didn't succeed. Principally, Alice said, because the kitten wouldn't fold its arms properly. So to punish it, she held it up to the looking glass so that it might see how sulky it was. And if you're not good directly, she added, I will put you through the looking glass. How would you like that? Now, if you only attend, Kitty, and not talk so much, I'll tell you all my ideas about Looking Glass House. First, there's a room you can see through the glass. That's just the same as our drawing room, only the things go the other way. I can see all of them when I get up upon a chair, all but the bit just behind the fireplace. Oh, I do so wish I could see that bit. I want so much to know whether they've a fire in the winter. You can't tell, unless our fire smokes, and then smoke comes up into that room too. But that may be only a pretense, just to make it look as if they had a fire. Well then, the books are something like our books, only the words go wrong way. You know that because I've held up one of our books to the glass, and then they hold up one in the other room. Next.
Would you like to live in Looking Glass House, Kitty? I wonder if they'd give you milk in there. Perhaps Looking Glass milk isn't good to drink, but oh, Kitty, now we come to the passage. You can just see a little peep of the passage in the Looking Glass House if you leave the door of our drawing room wide open. And it's very like our passage as far as you can see, only now it may be quite different on beyond. Oh, Kitty, how nice it would be if we could only get through into Looking Glass House. I'm sure it's got, oh, such beautiful things in it. Let's pretend there's a way of getting through into it somehow, Kitty. Let's pretend the glass has got all soft like a gauze so that we can get through. Why, it's turning into a sort of mist now, I declare. It'll be easy enough to get through. She was up on the chimney piece while she said this, though she hardly knew how she had got there. And certainly the glass was beginning to melt away, just like a bright silvery mist. In another moment, Alice was through the glass and had jumped lightly down into the looking glass room. The very first thing she did was to look whether there was a fire in the fireplace, and she was quite pleased to find that there was a real one, blazing away as brightly as the one she had left behind. So I shall be as warm here as I was in the old room, thought Alice. Warmer, in fact, because there'll be no one here to scold me away from the fire. Oh, what fun it'll be when they see me through the glass in here and can't get at me. Then she began looking about and noticed what could be seen from the old room was quite common and uninteresting, but that all the rest was as different as possible. For instance, the pictures on the wall next to the fire seemed to be all alive. And the very clock on the chimney piece, you can only see the back of it in the looking glass, had got a face of a little old man and grinned at her. Next, please.
They don't keep this room so tidy as the other, Alice thought to herself, and she noticed several of the chessmen down on the hearth among the cinders. But in another moment, with a little oh of surprise, she was down on her hands and knees, watching them. The chessmen were walking about, two and two. Here are the Red King and the Red Queen, Alice said, in a whisper for fear of frightening them. And there are the White King and the White Queen sitting on the edge of the shovel. And here are two castles walking arm in arm. I don't think they can hear me, she went on, as she put her head down closer down. And I'm nearly sure they can't see me. I feel somehow as if I was getting invisible. Here something began squeaking on the table behind Alice and made her turn her head just in time to see one of the white pawns roll over and begin kicking. She watched it with a great curiosity to see what would happen next. It is the voice of a child, the White Queen cried out as she pushed past the king, so violently that she knocked him over among the cinders. My precious Lily, my imperial kitten, and she began scrambling wildly up the side of the fender. Imperial fiddlesticks, said the king, rubbing his nose, which had been hurt by the fall. He had a right to be a little annoyed with the queen, for he was covered with ashes from head to foot. Alice was very anxious to be of use, and as the poor little Lily was nearly screaming herself into a fit, she hastily picked up the queen and set her on the table by the side of her noisy little daughter. The queen gasped and sat down. The rapid journey through the air had quite taken away her breath, and for a minute or two she could do nothing but hug the little Lily in silence. As soon as she'd recovered her breath a little, she called out to the White King, who was sitting sulkily among the ashes, "Mind the volcano." "What volcano?" said the king, looking up anxiously into the fire, as if he thought that the most likely place to find one. Joan?
Blew me up, panted the queen, who was still a little out of breath. Mind you, come up. The regular way. Don't get blown up. Alice watched the White King as he slowly struggled up from bar to bar, till at last she said, "Why, you'll be hours and hours getting to the table at that rate." "I'd far better help you, hadn't I?" But the king took no notice of the question. It was quite clear that he could neither hear her nor see her. So Alice picked him up very gently and lifted him across more slowly than she had lifted the queen, that she mightn't take his breath away. But before she put him on the table, she thought she might as well dust him a little. He was so covered in ashes. She said afterwards that she had never seen in all her life such a face as the king made when he found himself held in the air by an invisible hand and being dusted. He was far too astonished to cry out, but his eyes and his mouth went on getting larger and larger and rounder, till her hands shook with laughing that she nearly let him drop on the floor. Katrina?
"Oh, please don't make such faces, my dear," she cried out, quite forgetting that the king couldn't hear her. "You make me laugh so that I can hardly hold you. And don't keep your mouth so wide open. All the ashes will get into it. There now, I think you're tidy enough," she added as she smoothed his hair and set him upon the table near the queen. The king immediately fell flat on his back and lay perfectly still, and Alice was a little alarmed at what she had done and went round the room to see if she could find any water to throw over him. However, she could find nothing but a bottle of ink, and when she got back with it, she found he had recovered, and he and the queen were talking together in a frightened whisper, so low that Alice could hardly hear what they said. The king was saying, "I assure you, my dear, I turned cold to the very ends of my whiskers," to which the queen replied, "You haven't got any whiskers." "Oh, the horror of that moment," the king went on, "I shall never, never forget." "You will, though," said the queen, "if you don't make a memorandum of it." Alice looked on with great interest as the king took an enormous memorandum book out of his pocket and began writing. A sudden thought struck her, and as she took hold of the end of the pencil, which was some way over his shoulder, she began writing for him. The poor king looked puzzled and unhappy and struggled with the pencil for some time without saying anything, but Alice was too strong for him, and at last he panted out, "My dear, I really must get a thinner pencil. I can't manage this one a bit. It writes all manner of things I don't intend." "What manner of things?" said the queen, looking over the book in which Alice had put "The White Knight is sliding down the poker He balances very badly. That's not a memorandum of your feelings. There was a book lying near Alice on the table, and while she sat watching the White King, for she was still a little anxious about him and had the ink all ready to throw over him in case he fainted again, she turned over the leaves to find some part that she could read. For it's all in some language I don't know, she said to herself. It was like this. Duncan, do the honors.
Wake cow rebabas.
You can hold it up to a mirror.
Yeah, mirror. It's mirror writing.
Yeah. Jabberwocky.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try something else.
It's
Yeah.
the same as the first of the verse but down below.
Oh,
Plus-
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Say that again.
It's the mirror version of the verse below
Of the first verse, yeah.
first verse of the poem,
Okay, can
Jabberwocky.
anybody see it? Can anybody do it?
You could read
Yeah.
it.
You can read it. It's on the next. It's about 4 lines down. Jabberwocky.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she puzzled over this for some time. Okay, got it. Okay, so anyway, it's all this, and it was like this. It was all nonsense. She puzzled over this for some time, but at last a bright thought struck her. Why, it's a looking glass book, of course. And if I hold it up to the glass, the words will all go the right way again. This was the poem that Alice read. Jabberwocky.
Yeah.
'Twas brig in the slithy toves, the gyre and gimble in the wabe. O mimsy were the borogroves, and mome ras o grabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the juju bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the togy wood, and burbled as it came. Next. Des.
2, 1, 2, and through. The vorpal blade went snicker-snack, he left it dead, and with its head he went gumping back. And hast thou seen, Jabberwock, come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, Calloo Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the sliddy toos did gyre and gimble in the wave. All miss me were the borogroves and the mome rat outgrave, whatever that means. It seems very pretty, she said when she had finished it, but it's rather hard to understand. You see, she didn't like to confess, even to herself, that she couldn't make it out at all. Somehow it seemed to fill my head with ideas, only I don't exactly know what they are. However, somebody killed something. That's clear at any rate. But oh, thought Alice, suddenly jumping up, if I don't make haste, I shall have to go back through the looking glass before I've seen what the rest of the house is like. Let's have a look at the garden first. She was out of the room in a moment and ran downstairs, or at least wasn't exactly running, but a new invention of getting downstairs quickly and easily, as Alice said to herself. She just kept the tips of her fingers on the handrail and floated gently down without ever touching the stairs with her feet. Then she floated on through the hall and would have gone straight out the door in the same way if she hadn't caught hold of the doorpost. She was getting a little giddy with so much floating in the air, and was rather glad to find herself walking again in a natural way. Now,
Can we read that? Those of us who have annotated, if someone could read that number 36.
Number 36.
Mm-hmm.
What? Oh, okay, I see. Number 36. Still far from clear is whether Jabberwocky is in some sense a parody. Is that the one, Joan?
Yes, yes.
Roger Green in the London Times Literary Supplement, March 1st, 1957, and more recently in the Lewis Carroll Handbook of 1962, suggests that Carroll may have had in mind The Shepherd of a Giant Mountain, a long German ballad about how a young shepherd slays a monstrous griffin. The ballad had been translated by Carroll's cousin Manella Bute Smedley and published in Sharp's London Magazine, March 7th and 21st, 1846. The similarity cannot be pinned down precisely, writes Green. Much is in the feeling and the atmosphere. The parody is of general style and outlook.
Oh, thank you.
And the annotated one breaks down the meanings of all the words.
Yes. There's so much to read here for your
Yeah,
going to
that's
take
no.
time.
I just was
Yeah.
suggesting that so that the words, the vocabulary is
Mm-hmm.
I
fine.
mean, somebody has worked out the real words of it. Is that what that means?
Yes.
Yes.
I see. Okay. Seems to
Does it say what
defeat
the
the
origin
purpose
of
it.
those words was? Was it Old English by
Yes.
any chance?
Yes, he does for some of them, not all of them. Like brillig is derived from the word brill or broil, the time of broiling dinner, the close of afternoon. So that goes on like that, if you're interested.
I would actually, to be a curmudgeon here, I would think that actually undercuts what I consider the purpose of the Jabberwocky poem.
That's a point.
I always thought that the purpose of the Jabberwocky poem was to illustrate how we are actually, when we listen to language, much of the time all we're doing is listening to the sound and the rhythm, and that even though on the surface it doesn't have to seem to have much meaning, that we feel that there's meaning in it, because grammatically speaking, it is well formed, as they say.
Well, they've never come, it appears that they have never really come to any conclusion as to what it does mean.
Yay! Yay! I'm glad.
The words, you can translate the words, but the use of it, they don't talk about.
Okay.
Well, Alice says it seems very pretty, but it's rather hard to understand.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of everything, isn't it?
And somehow it seems to fill my head with ideas, only I don't exactly know what they are.
Right. Right. Well, that's what I mean by it's actually grammatically well formed, but that the words are, as far as we can tell, nonsense.
I see that when Alice was, what, 7.5 or so, 7 or 8, when it was in Wonderland. But this one was written 5 years later. So it's 12 to 13-year-olds. And this seems a bit on the childish side for a 12 to 13-year-old.
There's a note on that also. Where's the note on the age thing?
Just a note that I have at the back here.
Okay.
It gives Lewis Carroll's lifeline in about 10 different notes about each different year. But in 1865, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is published with drawings by John Tenniel, a well-known cartoonist. The printing was poor and it had to be done again. Then 1868, his father dies, leaving him depressed. And 1871, the sequel called Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There is published. And, he just goes on other bits and pieces.
Okay, so
Well,
6 years later, after Alice
Yeah.
in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Yeah. She but that's when it was written, but this occurred just 6 months after she fell through the rabbit hole. That's what the note here says. This is support Alice's statement to the White Queen. She is exactly 7½ years old. That's in the Alice in Wonderland. For Alice Little's birthday was May 4th, and the previous trip to Wonderland occurred on May 4th when Alice presumably was exactly 7. This leaves open the question of whether the year is 1859 when Alice actually was 7, 1860, 1861, or 1862 when Carol told and wrote down the story of Alice's first adventure. November 4th, 1859 was a Friday. In 1860, it was Sunday. In 1861, Monday. And in 1862, Tuesday. Don't know if that helps. Last date seems to be the most plausible in view of Alice's remark to the kitten in the next paragraph, but one that she is saving up her punishments until a week from Wednesday. So she's still a little girl, right?
He is, yes. Although that explains what I was picking up from the story itself.
Yeah.
It was, for a 7, 8-year-old, yes, it would have been great.
So yeah, the note also emphasizes the difference between the season of the rabbit hole and the spring of the rabbit hole and the winter or fall of the Through the Looking Glass. Sharp contrasts. Wintry weather harmonizes with the wintry symbols of age and approaching death. The preparation for a bonfire analysis remark, "Do you know what tomorrow is, Kitty?" Suggests that the day was November 4th, Guy Fawkes Day.
Yeah, around about our time now.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We should be reading it around about this time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a week away.
Yeah.
What's a week away? Is this
Guy
something?
Fawkes Day
Guy Fawkes.
Guy
Yeah.
Fawkes Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
and the 4th of November, which presumably was when this took place.
Halloween.
And Guy Fawkes Day is the day that they stopped him from blowing up the Parliament or something like that.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's very timely, isn't it? As to
Yeah.
what's going on right here now,
Yes.
Yeah.
when they blew up the East, the East Wing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You're noticing the cosmic cycles here, Joe.
Yeah.
What I thought about that was when the No Kings parades and protests were taking over the weekend.
Yeah.
It was like a screw you to the population, where he just took down the East Wing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you combine that with the now notorious video
Oh, wow.
of him
Yeah.
in the airplane
Yeah.
pooping on everybody.
Yeah.
That was really childish stuff, that. Really childish.
Yeah.
Suppose we shouldn't expect any more from the guy.
Oh, God. It'll keep
Any
coming.
more sense?
Mm.
Well, things are really going to blow up probably next week. When if the SNAP benefits are suddenly cut, because most of the people who receive SNAP benefits probably have no idea what's going on.
Heard a report that the biggest federal union came out and asked the Democrats to end the strike. ends the shutdown, which sounds very odd to me. There's a lot of politics in there.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows how this will end? It's a, it's a bad scene.
It'll
It's a
end in
bad
tears
scene.
anyway.
It's a bad scene, but I think it will end. I think it will end with a goodly percentage of his supporters moving away from him because of painful events in their life, like people in their families dying because they can't get medical aid, and people having a hard time just feeding themselves.
And groups of people like farmers
Mm-hmm.
and cattle ranches
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so forth. Well, anyhow,
Anyhow, just to bring it back down, we are now at chapter 2, the Garden of Life Flowers. Do we have any more comments or questions concerning chapter 1? So I will pose a question. Do you think the Jabberwocky is just to help put us in the mood that the world is upside down?
that everything is crazy and you don't quite understand it, and
Mm-hmm.
you just that she accepts everything if she understands it or not.
It
If
could
the,
also be like a young 8-year-old listening to an adult conversation. You just pick up some words. Most of it is gobbledygook, and somehow you might get a bit of sense of what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think it's interesting that in the what do they call it? On the workup to going through the looking glass, that she has that conversation with the kitten,
Mm.
in which she sounds very much like a mother
that's
admonishing a bad child.
that's talked about in the annotations. If you want to look at that,
Well, tell us about it, John.
I'm looking for it now.
I mean, but that's the way it seems to me. I mean, it seems to me that she is projecting her mother when she's talking to the kitten.
It's like a child playing house, playing mother. Yeah.
Oh, well, it talks about everything being opposite. And where did I see this? Um, There's a whole thing here on symmetry, left to right. Oh. Oh, I can't find it quickly. You might want to go on.
Okay. But anyway, I mean, just speaking off the top of my head and repeating myself here, that it sounds like she's doing the classic thing here. Her mother admonishes her this way, and now she sees a chance to project her mother in admonishing the kitten. And then immediately after that, she takes us into a topsy-turvy world.
Well, they are talking a lot about asymmetrical things.
Yeah.
And the mirror images, many references, left to right, Tweedledum, Tweedledee, White Knight squeezes a right foot into a left shoe, a bunch of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot to do, I think, with with everything here that they're talking about is the inversion of things.
Mhm.
Inversion things occur, of course, throughout all of Carol's nonsense writing. Let's see, and it goes on about that. Then talks about changes in size, large girl, small puppy, large puppy, small. And then it talks, oh, must have been where they talked about there's a black kitten and a white kitten.
Mhm.
Red Queen knows of a hill so large that compared to it, the hill is a valley. Uh, yeah, so I think at least to start, they're talking, just a lot about it as a way of writing something, just as just about things being inverted.
I came across something that a woman called Alice Rakes, she was a distant cousin of Charles Dodgson. And she wrote in the Times newspaper in 1932. She was recalling an incident. And what she says, as children, we lived in Onslow Square and used to play in the garden behind the houses. Charles Dodgson used to stay with an old uncle there and walk up and down, his hands behind him, on the strip of lawn. One day, hearing my name, he called me to him, saying, "So you are another Alice. I'm very fond of Alice's. Would you like to come and see something which is rather puzzling?" We followed him into his house, which opened, as ours did, upon a garden, into a room full of furniture, with a tall mirror standing across one corner. "Now," he said, giving me an orange, "first tell me which hand you've got that in."
Mm.
"The right," I said. "Now," he said, "go and stand before the glass and tell me which hand the little girl you see there has got it in." After some perplexed contemplation, I said, "The left hand." "Exactly," he said. "And how do you explain that?" I couldn't explain it, but seeing that some solution was expected, I ventured, "If I was on the other side of the glass, wouldn't the orange still be in my right hand?" I can remember his laugh. "Well done, little Alice," he said. "The best answer I've had yet."
Mm.
So
Mhm.
he was already kind of playing with that idea of the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
I think that Lewis Carroll really wanted to curry favor with children,
Yeah,
and he was a little bit of a child himself.
yeah.
But one way to curry favor with children is to give them knowledge that their parents don't have.
Mm.
So,
And the other thing he used to do was he used to write letters backwards and send them to people. So he had to start at the bottom of the page and read up to the top. So he wrote several of those letters to people. So he was messing around with this himself a lot of the time. Yeah,
Mm.
mhm.
I think he was kind of interested in some of these things that he was using,
yeah,
locations of this reversal and
yeah.
the philosophy, the scientific.
Mhm. Well, it was his specialty. I mean, his specialty was logic, as I remember. His professional specialty was logic. And I think that you would find that uh, professors of logic find that most people don't know anything about logic at all. And so, um, and he also liked children. And as I said, one way to curry favor with children is by teaching them something that their parents and the other adults don't know. Because, of course, parents and other adults are always lording it over children, their superior knowledge. So,
I should tell you an anecdote. I have a young, he was young then, a nephew. He was about 5, maybe 6 years old. And I was up in their house, and I gave him the puzzle of looking in a mirror, and I move one arm, move the other arm. And I asked him why that left and right move the same way, but not up and down. I said, why is that? And I absolutely found it. He really had a good think at it. And he said, that's because the light is reflected straight back, which was absolutely perfect answer. And he went racing off to his mother, cheering himself for doing this. She just looked at me and she said, you know, this is the guy who came home from school a few weeks ago and said, what number is below 1?
Oh dear. How old was this child?
It was five or six. He was 5 or 6 at the time.
And how old is he now? And what is he inventing?
Oh, he's 30 something now.
Oh, he must be brilliant.
Oh, yes, he was, yes.
Mm.
But it's you know, it's the same thing you were talking about, Duncan, on the how the children go back to the parents, and the parents are so proud of them, and the child is full of themselves. You were mentioning something on that line there earlier.
I think we got several interesting things going on. And one is that while parents and other adults do lord their knowledge over children, I think that really special parents absolutely love it when their children tell them something new that the parent did not understand before.
I think sometimes the parent has given up thinking about it, where a child may look in a mirror and see that the hands are confused. He's confused in left and right. Well, a parent may think about it when he's small, but may not. He will eventually, of course, know why, but he has forgotten. He is no longer searching for the answer of a lot of these questions. Where the child looks at the child looks at it in a very fresh, new way, and asks the question.
Well, if you ever really want to have some fun and you want to place yourself in the position of Alice, there is a English kind of philosopher by the name of D.E. Harding. And D.E. Harding wrote a book called On Having No Head. Actually, he wrote a number of books, but probably his most famous book is On Having No Head. and he is doing kind of what Lewis Carroll is doing with the children in the story, but he's doing it for adults. And he starts off by pointing out, he says, everybody else sees your face, but you've never seen your own face.
Oh, you haven't.
You never will. because when you look in a mirror, just like left hand, right hand, when you look in a mirror, it's left side, right side. So everything's reversed.
Unless you hold a mirror up to the mirror.
Well, you can try that.
Mhm.
Try that, but then you still have the problem of size.
Yeah, it's still only a reflection. It's not your face.
Yeah.
It's not your face, and the size is different, and the sides are generally different.
Yeah.
And he says that it's a simple fact that we never see our faces.
Mhm.
And then he does a little thing. He has all these little experiments which you can do, which my favorite, and I still do it every once in a while, is when you're driving in your car, is to think on a purely perceptual level, the phenomenological level, and ask yourself the question, is my car moving or is the street moving under me? And it's kind of fun because really, if you do it and you take out all the abstract knowledge that you know about such things, you can actually put yourself in a state where you feel like it's not the car that's moving, it's the road and the buildings are moving
Mm.
under and around you.
Don't they do that in some movies when they're filming?
Mm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was the old style thing when they would do studio movies and they wanted action, they would just put the person in a car and then they would have the scenery going by.
Mhm.
You see Cary Grant driving a car and he's going like this. If he wasn't, bro, he'd be all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well, I
like
just
that.
went, I mean, it's really interesting. Movies are really good at this. I went to see the new movie Blue Moon, which has been made by a local Austin's most famous director, Richard Linklater, who I admire and who I give great credit for because he allows me to see lots of movies very cheaply and will sometimes make presentations. Well, in this particular thing, he takes Ethan Hawke, who is not a small person,
Mhm.
and makes Ethan Hawke perceptually about 5 feet tall and about 25 years older and with thinning hair. And the movie was really kind of fascinating. The story was good, but I got caught up into how do they do that? I know Ethan Hawke is not a small guy. How do they do for 90 minutes? Because Ethan Hawke is in the movie all 90 minutes. How did they make him look short with balding hair, with an old man's voice? How did they do that for 90 minutes?
They used to do the opposite with Alan Ladd.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake.
Hmm.
Veronica Lake, I believe, was 4'11". But she was a very beautiful 4'11", so she was in lots of movies. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's just this thing about perception in general. I've always been fascinated with is how there are certain rules to how we see things, and if you manipulate those rules, you can create all kinds of interesting illusions. Anyway,
They do that in fun houses too, in amusement parks, and you go through
mhm.
these uh, what they call fun houses, and they fool around with your perception
Right.
a lot in those things.
In the film Shane, the story was that Alan Ladd, at one of the scenes, they dug a hole in the ground for his co-actor so that he would be on a level. He was
Mhm.
quite a short guy.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, he was 5'6", actually,
Mm.
which was actually taller than I thought he was. But he's, according to my search earlier this morning, he was 5'6".
They would often put them in shoes that were built up too. That was another way of doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, Sammy Davis Jr. used to wear high heels too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. All righty. Shall we read another chapter?
Yes. Yes.
I'm not sure we have time, but we can read it. We can always read it again next time. So who was the last reader?
I finished off there.
Yeah. Chapter 2, The Garden of Live Flowers. I should see the garden far better, said Alice to herself, if I could get to the top of the hill. And here's a path that leads straight to it. At least, no, it doesn't do that. After going a few yards along the path and turning several sharp corners, but I suppose it will at last. But how curiously it twists. It's more like a corkscrew than a path. Well, this turn goes to the hill. I suppose, no, it doesn't. This goes straight back to the house. Well then, I'll try it the other way. And so she did, wandering up and down and trying turn after turn, but always coming back to the house, do what she would. Indeed, once when she turned a corner rather more quickly than usual, she ran against it before she could stop herself. It's no use talking about it, Alice said, looking up at the house and pretending it was arguing with her. I'm not going in again yet. I know I should have to get through the looking glass again, back into the old room, and there'd be an end of all my adventures. So, resolutely turning her back upon the house, she set out once more down the path, determined to keep straight on till she got to the hill. For a few moments, all went well, and she was just saying, I really shall do it this time, when the path gave a sudden twist and shook itself, as she described it afterwards, and the next moment she found herself actually walking in at the door. Joan?
Oh, it's too bad, she cried. I never saw such a house for getting in the way. Never. However, there was the hill full in sight, so there was nothing to be done but start again. This time she came upon a large flower bed with a border of daisies and a willow tree growing in the middle. Oh, Tiger Lily, said Alice, addressing herself to one that was waving gracefully about in the wind. I wish you could talk. We can talk, said the Tiger Lily, when there's anybody worth talking to. Alice was so astonished that she couldn't speak for a minute. It quite seemed to take her breath away. At length, as the Tiger Lily only went on waving about, she spoke again in a timid voice, almost in a whisper. And can all the flowers talk? As well as you can, said the Tiger Lily, and a great deal louder. It isn't manners for us to begin, you know, said the Rose, and I really was wondering when you'd speak. Said I to myself, her face has got some sense in it, though it's not a clever one. Still, you're the right color, and that goes a long way. Katrina?
I don't care about the color, the tiger lily remarked. If only her petals curled up a little more, she'd be all right. Alice didn't like being criticized, so she began asking questions. Aren't you sometimes frightened at being planted out here with nobody to take care of you? There's a tree in the middle, said the Rose. What else is it good for? But What could it do if any danger came? Alice asked. It could bark, said the rose. It says bow wow, cried a daisy. That's why those branches are called boughs. Didn't you know that? Cried another daisy, and here they all began shouting together till the air seemed quite full of little shrill voices. Silence, every one of you, cried the tiger lily, waving itself passionately from side to side and trembling with excitement. They know I can't get at them, it panted, bending its quivering head toward Alice, or they wouldn't dare do it. Never mind, Alice said in a soothing tone, and stooping down to the daisies, who were just beginning again, she whispered, If you don't hold your tongues, I'll pick you. There was a
Oh.
silence in a moment, and several of the pink daisies turned white. That's right, said the tiger lily. The daisies are the worst of all. When one speaks, they all begin together, and it's enough to make one wither to hear the way they go on. How is it you can all talk so nicely? Alice said, hoping to get into a better temper by a compliment. I've been in many gardens before, but none of the flowers could talk. Duncan.
Put your hand down and feel the ground, said the tiger lily. Then you'll know why. Alice did so. It's very hard, she said, but I don't see what that has to do with it. Well, in most gardens, the tiger lily said, they make the beds too soft so that the flowers are always asleep. This sounded a very good reason, and Alice was quite pleased to know it. Oh, I've never thought of that before, she said. In my opinion, you never think at all, the rose said in a rather severe tone. I never saw anyone who looked stupider, a violet said, so suddenly that Alice quite jumped, for it hadn't spoken before. Hold your tongue, cried the tiger lily, as if you ever saw anybody. You keep your head under the leaves and snore away there till you know no more what's going on in the world than if you were a bud. Are there more people in the garden besides me? Alice said, not choosing to notice the rose's last remark. Back to Des.
There's one other flower in the garden that can move about like you, said the rose. I wonder how you do it. You're always wondering, said the tiger lily. But she's more bushy than you are. Is she like me? Alice asked eagerly, for the thought crossed her mind. There's another little girl in the garden somewhere. Well, she has the same awkward shape as you, the rose said, but she's redder, and her petals are shorter, I think. They're done up close, like a dahlia, said the tiger lily, not tumbled about like yours. But that's not your fault, the rose said kindly. You're beginning to fade, you know, and then one can't help one's petals getting a little untidy. Alice didn't like this idea at all. So to change the subject, she said, Does she ever come out here? I dare say you'll see her soon, said the rose. She's one of the kind that has 9 spikes, you know. Where does she wear them? Alice asked with some curiosity. Why, all round her head, of course, the rose replied. I was wondering you hadn't got some too. I thought it was a regular rule. She's coming, cried the larkspur. I hear her footsteps thump, thump along the gravel walk. Alice looked around eagerly and found that it was the Red Queen. She's grown a good deal, was her first remark. She had indeed. When Alice first found her in the ashes, she had been only 3 inches high, and here she was, half a head taller than Alice herself. It's the fresh air that does it, says the rose. Wonderful fine air it is out here. I think I'll go and meet her, said Alice. For though the flowers were interesting enough, she felt that it would be far grander to have a talk with a real queen. Tom, please.
You can't possibly do that, said the rose. I should advise you to walk the other way. This sounded nonsense to Alice, so she said nothing, but set off at once towards the Red Queen. To her surprise, She lost sight of her in a moment and found herself walking in at the front door again. A little provoked, she drew back, and after looking everywhere for the Queen, whom she spied out at last, a long way off, she thought she would try the plan this time of walking in the opposite direction. It succeeded beautifully. She had not been walking a minute before she found herself face to face with the Red Queen and full in sight of the hill she had been so long aiming at. "Where do you come from?" said the Red Queen, "and where are you going? Look up, speak nicely, and don't twiddle your fingers all the time." Alice attended to all these directions and explained as well as she could that she had lost her way. "I don't know what you mean by your way," said the Queen. "All the days about here belong to me. All the ways about here belong to me. But why did you come out here at all?" she added in a kinder tone. "Curtsy while you're thinking what to say. It saves time." Alice wondered a little at this, but she was too much in awe of the Queen to disbelieve it. "I'll try it when I go home," she thought to herself. "The next time I'm a little late for dinner." Joan?
It's time for you to answer now, the Queen said, looking at her watch. Open your mouth a little wider when you speak, and always say, Your Majesty. I only wanted to see what the garden was like, Your Majesty. That's right, said the Queen, patting her on the head, which Alice didn't like at all. Though when you say garden, I've seen gardens compared with which this would be a wilderness. Alice didn't dare to argue the point, but went on. And I thought I'd try and find my way to the top of the hill. When you say hill, the Queen interrupted, I could show you hills in comparison with which you'd call that a valley. No, I shouldn't, said Alice, surprised into contradicting her at last. A hill can't be a valley, you know. That would be nonsense. The Queen shook her head. You may call it nonsense if you like, she said, but I've heard nonsense compared with which that would be as sensible as a dictionary. Alice curtsied again, as she was afraid from the Queen's tone that she was a little offended, and they walked on in silence till they got to the top of the little hill. For some minutes, Alice stood without speaking, looking out in all directions over the country. And a most curious country it was. There were a number of tiny little brooks running straight across it from side to side, and the ground between was divided up into squares by a number of little green hedges that reached from brook to brook. Katrina, but they're laying out the chessboard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I declare it's marked out just like the large chessboard, Alice said
yes.
at last.
Yeah.
There ought to be some men moving about somewhere, and so there are, she added in a tone of delight, and her heart began to beat quick with excitement as she went on. It's a great, huge game of chess that's being played all over the world, if this is the world at all, you know. Oh, what fun it is. How I wish I was one of them. I wouldn't mind being a pawn, if only I might join, though, of course, I should like to be the queen, to be a queen best. She glanced rather shyly at the real Queen as she said this, but her companion only smiled pleasantly and said, That's easily managed. You can be the White Queen's pawn if you like, as Lily's too young to play, and you're in the second square to begin with. When you get to the 8th square, you'll be a queen. Just at this moment, somehow or other, they began to run. Alice could never quite make out, in thinking it over afterwards, how it was that they all began. All she remembers is that they were running hand in hand, and the Queen went so fast that it was all she could do to keep up with her. And still the Queen kept crying, Faster, faster! But Alice felt she could not go faster, though she had no breath left to say so. The curious part of the thing was that the trees and other things all around them never changed their places at all. However fast they went, they never seemed to pass anything. I wonder if all the things move along. I wonder if all the things move along with us, thought poor puzzled Alice. And the Queen seemed to guess her thoughts, for she cried, Faster, don't try to talk. Not that Alice had any idea of doing that. She felt as if she would never be able to talk again. She was getting so much out of breath, and still the Queen cried faster, faster, and dragged her along. Are we nearly there? Alice managed to pant out at last. Nearly there, the Queen repeated. Why, we passed it 10 minutes ago. Faster! And they ran on for a time in silence, with the wind whistling in Alice's ears and almost blowing her hair off her head, she fancied. Duncan.
Now, now, cried the Queen. Faster, faster! And they went so fast that at last they seemed to skim through the air, hardly touching the ground with their feet, till suddenly, just as Alice was getting quite exhausted, they stopped, and she found herself sitting on the ground, breathless and giddy. The Queen propped her up against the tree and said kindly, "You may rest a while now, a little now." Alice looked round her in great surprise. "Why, I do believe we've been under this tree the whole time. Everything's just as it was." "Of course it is," said the Queen. "What would you have it?" "Well, in our country," said Alice, still panting a little, "you'd generally get to somewhere else if you ran very fast for a long time, as we've been doing." "A very slow sort of country," said the Queen. "Now, here you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast." I'd rather not try, please," said Alice. "I'm quite content to stay here, only I am so hot and thirsty." "I know what you'd like," the Queen said good-naturedly, taking a little box out of her pocket. "Have a biscuit?" Alice thought it would not be civil to say no. That wasn't all what she wanted, so she took it and ate it as well as she could, and it was very dry, and she thought she had never so nearly choked in all her life. Thus,
You're refreshing yourself, said the Queen. I'll just take the measurements. And she took a ribbon out of her pocket, marked in inches, and began measuring the ground, and sticking little pegs in here and there. At the end of 2 yards, she said, putting a peg to mark the distance, I shall give you your directions. Have another biscuit? No, thank you, said Alice. One's quite enough. Thirst quenched, I hope, said the Queen. Alice did not know what to say to this, but luckily the Queen did not wait for an answer, but went on, At the end of 3 yards, I shall repeat them, for fear of your forgetting them. At the end of 4, I shall say goodbye, and at the end of 5, I shall go. She had got all the pegs put in by this time, and Alice looked on with great interest as she returned to the tree, and then began slowly walking down the row. Tom.
At the 2 yard peg, she faced round and said, Pawn goes 2 squares in its first move, you know. So you'll go very quickly through the third square by railway, I should think, and you'll find yourself in the fourth square in no time. Well, that square belongs to Tweedledum and Tweedledee. The fifth is mostly water. The sixth belongs to Humpty Dumpty. But you make no remark. I didn't know I had to make one just then, Alice faltered out. You should have said, the Queen went on in a tone of grave reproof. It's extremely kind of you to tell me all this. However, we suppose it said the seventh square is all forest. However, one of the knights will show you the way, and in the eighth square we shall be queens together, and it's all feasting and fun. Alice got up and courtesied and sat down again. Joan?
At the next peg, the Queen turned again, and this time she said, Speak in French when you can't think of the English for a thing. Turn out your toes and you walk, and remembering who you are. She did not wait for Alice to curtsy this time, but walked on quickly to the next peg, where she turned for a moment to say goodbye, and then hurried on to the last. Katrina?
How it happened, Alice never knew, but exactly as she came to the last peg, she was gone. Whether she vanished into the air or whether she ran quickly into the wood, and she can run very fast, thought Alice, There was no way of guessing, but she was gone, and Alice began to remember that she was a pawn and that it would soon be time for her to move.
All right.
Yeah.
End of chapter 2.
Yeah.
So I remembered a very famous Picasso story. After Picasso had gotten into his thing where there'd be an eye on one side and strange shapes and all this. And I think the story goes an American came along and was admonishing Picasso for drawing heads so peculiarly and unrealistically. And Picasso said, well, what do you mean? Compared to what? And the guy took a photo out of his wallet. And he said, this is a picture of my wife. And Picasso looked at the picture of the guy's wife and he said, she's rather small and flat, isn't she?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's a wonderful story. I wonder how the guy responded.
I didn't get that part of it, but anyway, and it may be one of those apocryphal stories, but I think it works marvelously well.
Yeah.
And it kind of does a Lewis Carroll trick on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thanks everybody. Remember next week is the first,
Monday.
That's the-
first Monday of the month.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can prepare something you would like to share.
Great.
And we shall meet again, and then
We can prepare something and read it backwards.
Yes.
there you go.
Very good.
I'm sure.
And see how we get on.
I bet there's a story that can be read backwards.
Mm, mm.
When my brother was taking piano lessons, he was just a little kid. He used to play the pieces backwards.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Huh. Really?
He was left-handed.
Huh.
Maybe it had
Yeah.
something to do with it. I don't know.
Huh.
All right. Well, everybody have a good day, and
Yes.
we'll see you soon.